Hey, welcome to Integrated Preparedness. I know you can't see me, but I'm still Steve Smith. I know a lot of you folks don't get into the city much, and sometimes think that the suburbs are the same as the city, which they're not. But I had to come down to the city to do something, and so I thought you might get a kick out of taking a little tour if you want to see. If you haven't been in a city, now here we're not talking about the high-rise part of the city, all the big buildings and things. We're talking about once you get outside of the big city, you've got decay all around. I used to work this area and a little bit to the east of here, on the east side of Kansas City. And it is actually it's cleaned up quite a bit. They've torn down a whole bunch of stuff and replaced it with vacant lots. So you don't have as many tenements and slums now. I could take you into areas where we would take a look at that. And to be honest, I would kind of like to do that because I get a kick out of coming down here just every now and then. Don't ask me why. We could probably spend a long time talking about that. But here, it's kind of been cleaned up. We're on a famous street in Kansas City called the Paseo. Now, people around here don't call it the Paseo, they just call it Paseo. It was a beautiful, beautiful street back when I was a youngster. You'll see over here, it's a divided parkway. You'll see over here the beautiful colonnades and things that were built. People used to come down here on Sundays and Saturday afternoons and take walks and sit on the benches and promenade, I don't know how you pronounce that. Now right now, it doesn't look that bad, but I will say that you wouldn't want to come down here after dark because it changes after dark. Part of this area around here I do talk about in one of my books. I forget which one. I think that it was in the third book, The Renewal. I'm not sure. But boy, looking around here, I bet I haven't been down this stretch in 20 years. And they have really cleaned it up. Over there used to be a very high-rise project called Wayne Minor. And it was just a hellhole. Whenever you'd have to go in there after people, it wasn't something you wanted to do. These beautiful apartments, they were built back in the 20s and 30s. They were beautiful back then. They're just rat infested now. I didn't realize that things were going to look this clean, to be honest. But we'll just, oh, there we go. There's a bunch of the property from the nighttime residents that they leave there. They leave there to come back to while they go up on the highways and the street corners with their cardboard signs and get money from all the good folks driving by. We'll just keep rolling here for a little bit. We're going to be coming up on an area. I won't go over to it, but it's 18th and Vine area. It's the old jazz district of Kansas City. Kansas City is famous for jazz and barbecue, as many of you know. And they tried to develop the area of 18th and Vine into a jazz. There it is. There's that sign. 18th and Vine District. And the Negro Baseball League Museum or something is down there. I think they've tried to make this into a destination tourist situation, but of course they can't keep people from killing each other. and which puts a damper on the tourism. But they keep pumping your federal money, your tax dollars into it, because they're just sure that with just a little more money, well, that's not true. That's not true. With a lot more money. See this? This used to be a beautiful place. Beautiful place. Sorry if I turned it around too much, make you dizzy. But they're sure with, another couple billion of your tax dollars, they should be able to make people feel like they ought to come down and listen to some mediocre music while they dodge gunfire. Okay, I don't know whether to just keep rolling here. I might put it on pause here in just a second. They've all this stuff is brand new. This was all urban renewal. See those fences to keep people from throwing concrete blocks off the bridge onto ongoing traffic and keep people from jumping. And let's see here. We'll just let her go for a couple of more minutes. I might pause it because this is pretty boring. We get up to a place where I can take my other hand off the wheel for a minute. Good, we're coming to a stop sign now. As I said in one of my videos before, when you're driving, and especially in a situation like this, always stay in the right lane so you don't get boxed in by traffic. And if you need to, if something pops up, you see something roaring up on through your rear view mirror or coming up on your left or whatever, you can always get off to the side. I'm going to put you on pause here for just a second, and we'll get back to it if I think it's anything more interesting. Okay, we just passed. I'll video some more here in a little bit. We just passed Truce Lake. That'll mean something to you. I know that we have several local viewers, and I'm going down to try to find something that one of them talked about. If I find it, we'll talk about it. If I don't, we won't. Just past Truce Lake, where they occasionally pull bodies and stolen cars out of. We're coming up on 31st Street. We're still on the Paseo. Up here, the next major street is going to be Linwood, which is it's a famous street in Kansas City. See these big old buildings. Like I said, this was a pretty city. I don't know if you can see that or not. It was a pretty city back in the 30s and the 40s, and then the 50s when I was born. And then in the 60s, about halfway through, it started just falling apart. I think I'll go up here to a place. I'm going to switch over and put you on pause one more time. I'm going to go over and see where I first lived. We'll see if that's interesting. Okay, I've circled around a little bit. There's KCPD Central Patrol Division. We're going to get on Linwood now. I've circled around, got off of Paseo. We're on Linwood now going east. Going to go over to Prospect, which is, well, it's a couple of things. I was born in a hospital that's not there anymore. Not that you all care about that, but just kind of, it's interesting to me. That's where I started my journey in this world. Up here at Prospect, there's an old saying that nothing good happens on Prospect after dark. Not much good happens on Prospect ever, to be honest. We're kind of now getting into the drive-by central area. And these buildings used to be nice. Those used to be some fancy apartments. Now you go in there, nothing but trash and shooting galleries and junk like that. Well, I see the funeral home is still standing because they get plenty of business down here. These old churches were just beautiful. I was baptized at a church down here on the left a little ways that I do feature in one of my books. Interesting thing about one of these churches down here, I don't know if we'll see it or not. Well, I'm sure we'll see it, but don't know how well I'll be able to show you. It used to be Linwood Methodist Church, and in one of my books I feature I kind of give a part to the minister who was the minister of our church who baptized me. His name was Cassius Street. And I talk about this church, and the interesting thing was, and it's coming up on your left right here. Now, it's something else now, and I forget what it is. There it is. But that's it right there. And one of my great-grandparents had a window, a stained glass window put in that church in their memory, and of course it's been broken out. But the interesting thing about that church was that the woodwork, and it had a beautiful sanctuary, beautiful woodwork. The wood came from maple that was originally intended to be used as gun stocks, as rifle stocks that were being I'm going to jump off here and go over to a street where I lived as a baby during World War I. And as the war came, I believe the church started being built in 1915, something like that. And as the war came to an end, they didn't need that walnut, or was it walnut or maple? I forget what it was. I used to know, I don't know anymore apparently. And okay, now we're turning on to Olive, which is where I lived. When I was a little baby, I used to walk up and down this street holding my mama's hand and my daddy's hand. It's a little bit different now. And this area, you make sure you don't get boxed in, you don't get stopped. You are aware of everything, so I don't even know if I'm showing you the street because I am aware of the things that might be getting aware of me. Oh, I'm gonna circle a block just to take a look at an old store that might be there. And we lived in a house that was right there, in that empty spot. Been torn down, obviously. But anyway, when the war came to an end, they didn't need that walnut or maple, whichever one it was, and so the church was able to get it and created used it to build out their sanctuary. So if that's not a perfect example of swords into plowshares, or the way that the good Lord can turn something originally meant for something not pleasant into something good, I don't know what is. And there was a little store there that we used to come over to. We'd walk over here for a loaf of bread. I know all you folks out there in the small towns in the country are saying, what in the world is he doing? Why would anybody want to live down there? Well, nobody wants to. Well, I guess some do. I don't want to live down here. I don't live down here. Why would anybody want to come down here? I don't know. It just brings back the old days. See, what's changed since I was a kid. And like I said, as a young cop, I worked not too far from here. As a matter of fact, we'll take a look. For any of you who are still with me, we'll take a look at where I used to work off duty as a young cop back in the late 70s. And You know, when you get down here, all these places are just torn up. But this is a jungle. I mean, after dark, there are things going on around here you don't want to think about. And, you know, as a young cop, that was exciting. And we enjoyed it. Right up here to the left, I'm sure it's not there anymore. I don't know if you have the buildings. There is that Mid-K building. It used to be a grocery store called Milgram's. And I worked off duty there as a young cop. Of course, all young cops needed to work off duty because the job didn't pay squat. And I worked off duty there for $6 an hour because they kept getting robbed. And I could tell some stories about some of the places up and down here, but I won't. I've never started telling stories about particular situations. Well, I might tell some of the funny ones, but I don't tell serious stories about particular situations. I doubt I ever will. So, but there was a lot of stuff happening up and down this very interesting street. I think I'm going to bring this to a close. Not that there was any big. Well, I guess I do want to put in a message here, and that is a lot of people think and a lot of people talk about, you know, worrying that the so-called golden hordes are going to come out of the cities, you know, in a time of great catastrophe. And that, for instance, people who live around here would be storming out into the suburbs and the small towns and the country and things like that. And I just want to reiterate what I've said before. That's not going to happen. This fear that people love to talk about of these hordes coming in, not going to happen. I know the city. I know these people. This is why I say the city will collapse in on itself. It will get 100 times worse here than it is now. But for the most part, the mindset of people who live here is not about walking out miles and miles and miles into the city or into the suburbs to somehow go after people who, you know, have more than they do. This is the world they know. This is the world they're comfortable in. Just like, you know, if you live in a small town, you're comfortable in that. You're not going in. You're not going to go into the city because the city has a lot more stuff, right? And it does. I mean, there's a lot of. We don't want to get into a wreck here. There's a lot of stuff in the city, and I also talk about that in one of my books on how people who live in the city, certain groups with strong leadership, can survive after a major collapse in the city. But this is the community that these people know. They would be staying here as things continue to go farther and farther and farther into the abyss. Anyway, I'm going to cut it off there because I'm going to end up looking for something that one of the commenters told me was down here. If I find it, I'll make another one about that. Other than that, I'm going to let you go. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And, well, you know how everything goes. So I'm going to leave it at that. You all have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.